Hi, I'm Rebecca with Cherished Children Ministries. Have your children ever asked, what is my assignment? Why do I have to do this? Am I going to get a grade on this? What do you want again? How long does this have to be? Today, I'm going to talk to you about the modes of writing, why and what. When you actually take the time to explain the why behind what we are doing together, questions like these will eventually be eliminated altogether. We really want our children to understand why we're doing something, so when we teach them to just listen for a moment, and then the teacher or the mom teacher will explain all the details, most of their questions will be answered and they will no longer moan and groan about their writing. I've actually found that when I spend enough time to explain and listen and clarify right then and there with my students, it actually saves a lot of time, and the students are much more likely to get a lot accomplished during our designated writing time. And the assignments are turned in on time. And when I do this effectively, I find that I no longer really have to repeat myself that much anymore. It's a win-win for all of us. The whys in writing are the modes, and the whats in writing are formats. I usually teach the 6 traits of writing, and this was first introduced by Ruth Cullum. When I am teaching each trait, I teach them one at a time, and I usually spend about a month on each trait. I'm not really addressing the whys and the what. Now, over time, my students do see how writing works when the pieces of the writing puzzle traits are all put together, but this particular piece is not necessarily addressed when I am just teaching the traits. I use the different modes of writing so I can explore the questions, why am I writing? And after I do this, then I can discuss all of the different formats of writing with my students as I take a look at the next question, which is, what am I writing? When I understand the modes and the formats, then I can actually teach my students how to write, which is the traits of writing that I have previously discussed in my lessons. So there are 3 basic modes of writing. There are expository, narrative, and persuasive. There are more, but these are just the basic modes of writing. I talk a little bit more about the different modes of writing in my video about RAFs and the best writing prompts. So these modes of writing help your children establish the purpose for writing that is clear to the reader. Many educators consider descriptive to be a mode, but I would actually like to present it as something a little bit different from a different kind of angle. While it does make sense to think descriptive as a mode, very rarely are descriptions written to do just that. Describe. So descriptions are written to enhance the narrative, or maybe even perhaps the expository or persuasive modes. I like to recommend using descriptions to actually enhance the modes and not write a description in and of itself. My students are all the time saying, why are we doing this? Well, when we establish the purpose for writing, the author, the children, they know why they are writing a piece, and then they can narrow the topic. For example, if a student chooses to write about baking a cake, he or she might zone in on the purpose and select a mode, and then narrow the topic. Maybe the student wants to write a narrative. So what is a narrative? The purpose of narrative writing. Narrative writing is telling a story. It's used for several different reasons. Here are 5 reasons to use narrative writing. Give a clear, well-developed storyline. Include characters that grow and change over time. Effectively communicate the time and setting, present a conflict and resolution, entertain, surprise, or challenge the reader. Some examples of narrowed topics for a narrative piece of writing could be these. Tell about a time that you baked a birthday cake for your mom. Tell about your mom's reaction when she tasted the cake. Tell about a time that you lost your favorite recipe. Maybe your student wants to write an expository piece of writing. So the purpose for an expository piece of writing is to inform or explain. It's used for several different reasons, such as to inform the reader about the topic, to transcend the obvious by explaining something interesting or curious about the topic, to focus on making the topic clear for the reader, to anticipate and answer the reader's questions, and to include details and add information that support key ideas, and to help the reader make personal connections. Some examples of a narrowed topic for an expository piece of writing could be: explain how you bake a cake, explain the ways to mix colors and add new flavors, explain the secret way to make the cake moist. Perhaps your students want to write a persuasive piece of writing. When you write a persuasive piece of writing, the purpose of this is to construct an argument that's used for several different reasons, such as these. You state a position clearly and you stick with it. Offer good sound reasoning. Provide solid facts, opinions, and examples. Reveal weaknesses and other positions. Use voice to add credibility and to show confidence. Some examples of a narrowed piece of persuasive writing could be these: persuade your mom and your dad to give you a cake decorating kit. Persuade your brother to give you alone time while you're baking the cake. And persuade your parents to let you enter the county fair in the cake decorating contest. The traits are actually related to the modes. So the traits of writing actually touch all three modes. They're really related. It really doesn't matter the purpose of the writing, whether that is telling a story or informing or explaining or constructing an argument of some sort. The author has to come up with the idea and organize his or her thoughts in some type of logical order. The voice that is just right for that particular audience might be thought about, and then the best words need to be selected in order to convey the message. Now, of course, conventions goes without saying. We always need to help our students and to teach them to use proper conventions, including grammar and punctuation and capitalization and spelling and neatness and so on. All of the traits sit nicely under the mode umbrella. I like to ask my students to explain why they are writing and not just ask them what they are writing about. This allows for more in-depth explanation, and you'll get to know and understand your children's purposes and unique styles. Energy is also conveyed whenever your students are excited from the beginning of the process, and you can actually help them get excited by asking the why behind his or her writing. Isn't it awesome to be able to empower your children in this way? And it's so easy, and your children will make meaning in this way. Writing requires a lot of hard thinking. So now it's time to determine the format. Okay, so now that the hard part is done and the children have decided why they are writing a certain piece, the next step is to determine which format to use. So imagine that you are going to a shoe store. You are on a mission to pick out the just right pair of sneakers for soccer. So you go to the sales clerk and you ask her to lead you to the direction of these types of shoes. The clerk will most likely not lead you to the dress shoes or to the basketball shoes or to the flip-flops, but rather to the specified type of shoe you are looking for. So the same is true for writing. When the format is selected that is the right fit, writing can begin and progress is made. There are a plethora of formats to choose from, so it can be a little overwhelming to children. I'm going to attach a link at the bottom of this video of a formats menu that you can just download. Oftentimes kids are only exposed to the formats like those needed for formal assessments like essays and short stories and letters, but there are so many more that children should be exposed to because it actually inhibits them from understanding all of the different ways that writers can convey a message if they aren't exposed to that. And we really want to teach children the many, many, many different forms of writing, including emails and advertisements and applications and so on, because they will actually use these kinds of writing in real life situations. Remember, the format should not drive the message of the writer. The purpose of the topic comes first, and then the format is chosen based upon those facts. So I don't know about you, but I always kind of dreaded that formal essay. It seems like it's the most commonly assigned piece of writing that we give to our students, and usually it's the most dreaded by them. Have you ever thought that the essay can take on any number of formats? It does not necessarily have to be a paper written essay. It could actually be a short story or a play. It could even be a journal entry. It can be fun. When the format hijacks the content is whenever we have a problem. I would like to offer steering away from the 5-paragraph essay, including the introduction and the 3 main points and the conclusion. When we force this kind of writing onto our youngsters, it gives them a bad flavor, and it oftentimes turns children away from the thought of enjoying writing and thinking that it is fun. The author should be able to have the freedom to compose as many paragraphs as necessary to get the main points across. Now, it could be 5 or it could be 8. It really doesn't matter. What matters is the content, and there's a really big difference between a 5-paragraph essay and an essay that has 5 paragraphs. When we let children have choices in formats for their topics of writing, they become motivated and they actually take ownership. They learn to enjoy the writing process and they don't dread writing class anymore. I want to really encourage you to allow as many possible varieties of formats in your own classroom or your own homeschool, and to see what kind of content your children come up with. Most likely, you are going to be very surprised, and your children will surprise you in that they will ask, when can we do writing again? So take a look at the variety of formats for you to teach your children and allow them to have some chances to write in these different ways. Just click the link below and access your format menu. So if you've been around kids for any time at all, whether they're your own kids or your classroom students, you know they have some really great things to say. And I have really come to believe that kids are authors too. They just need some help in getting it out there on paper in some way. I want to equip you to give the needed support to your own children in your own classroom or your own homeschool, wherever you are in your teaching. Just give your children the support that they need when they feel overwhelmed, and encourage them when they need praise, and excite them when they lose that energy. Will all of your children love writing? No, they won't all love it. Will all of your children become writers for their careers? No, they will not. But they will need to be able to communicate effectively no matter what they become as adults. Give them encouragement and stick with it whenever it becomes difficult or too hard. Be patient and teach them to be patient, and let them see the reward at the end, whether that is just finishing something or seeing this amazing product that they have to share with their peers or their family. Always keep in mind the systematic student-centered instruction in the traits, the modes, and the formats, combined with a solid understanding of the writing process. This is the very heart of any successful writing program. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.